guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. So this is the Victory Amps VX100 Super Kraken. A hell of an amp name. And since I ran into Mark Tremonti at the Victory Amps booth at NAMM one year and seen that he's used Victory on all the recent Alter Bridge and Tremonti records, I've been dying to try out a big boy Victory. Well, it's here. It's their flagship high-gain monster. I was dying to see if it held up to the hype. Smack a like on the video if you're going to enjoy it. That actually really helps out. And let's take a closer look. Now, something interesting about Victory is that they don't really have one flagship. They have very distinct amp families, each performing a different role in a cohesive lineup. There's the super clean Duchess family, classic British Overdrive, and the Sheriff family. The Krakens are their high-gain fire breathers, and the original VX Kraken amp was developed in collaboration with none other than Rabin Masad, one of my favorite modern guitar players and riff writers. And this Super Kraken is the bigger 100-watt version. They also have an 180-watt pedal version with a tube preamp section and 2 notes cab sim XLR out, which sounds awesome, by the way. But that is not the point of this video. So I've been playing around with the Super Kraken for a few weeks now. I absolutely adore this amp. So let's jump into a quick demo mix that I wrote for it. I was kind of going for Alter Bridge, but on baritone because Bia. And then I'll give you a feature breakdown and then my final thoughts on why you need to try a Super Kraken. So that's the Kraken. It sounds very, very cool. And before we talk more about it, let's talk about today's very, very cool sponsor, the lovely people over at Sweetwater. And I love these guys. I've been a customer of theirs for over a decade, so I'm super excited to have them as a channel partner and to work with them to bring you guys better guitar content and giveaways. Anytime I need anything guitar related, they are my first stop. It's basically automatic at this point. The guitar gallery is phenomenal for picking out the exact instrument that you want, and they've got their gear exchange for used listings. The gear exchange is awesome as a seller because you can use it in the same way that you'd use eBay or Reverb, or there's absolutely zero fees if you choose to get paid in Sweetwater credit. Super convenient because, let's be real, a lot of the time when we sell something, it's to fund a new piece of gear. So it's nice to have both options. Sweetwater links to all the gear I'm using are in the description if you want more info or decide to pick up something of your own. And you can also bookmark my affiliate link down below to use when you need strings or picks or whatever. It's a fun way to support the channel. I get a little kickback to reinvest back in the content, and that lets them know that I sent you so we can put together together more fun videos for you guys. So huge thanks to Sweetwater, and with that, let's talk more about this amp. The Victory Super Kraken is almost an old school amp built for the modern age. Features are cool and everything, especially recent amp companies are just pumping their amps full of features. I love it, we live in the future, but the biggest thing about any amp since the inception of the guitar amp is the tone. And the tone is really why you need to try this amp. It's proudly built in England, so you might assume super British sounding amp, but you'd be assuming wrong. Now the power section can run EL34 valves, but it comes stock with 6L6 power tubes. Fuck, I already fucked that up. Whatever, we move. A 6L6 power section is very interesting for a UK amp. Keep that in mind. Then it's got 4 12AX7s in the preamp section, so just mountains of gain. And the way that it approaches foot switches is quite interesting. Instead of one big 4-button switch, it comes with 2 smaller 2-button switches in the box. Not sure if I like that. On one hand, you have to keep track of 2 foot switches. On the other hand, if you only need the functionality of one of them, you can leave the other at home. So anyways, the first foot switch lets you switch between your dual master volumes and your dual gain modes. And the second toggles your crunch and focus settings. We'll come back to those in a second. Gain 1 is basically your clean channel. It's not a super clean channel, it's very warm, and you do get a bit of breakup even without a boost. Then it's got a de facto crunch channel that can also be accessed from that second foot switch. And it's kind of what you'd expect to get from a British amp. Very emphasized mid-range, very dry, stands out really well in a mix. But Gain 2, remember that 6L6 power section? Gain 2 gets you a meaner, more chunky, American-ish style tone. In reality, I describe it to be kind of like an angrier, fuller, more American-sounding orange, like a Florida Man rock reverb, but good. I hope they're not offended by that description, a Florida Man rock reverb. Again, we move. Obviously, a lot of amps have a lot of gain, but not many are as raw sounding as this. What's special about the gain with this amp is the way that it blends British and American. It sounds both wild and controlled at the same time. It's phenomenal. And there's even additional switches for more control. On the front panel, there's a preamp focus toggle, which is also foot switchable and kind of acts essentially like a Tube Screamer style overdrive in front of the amp. It adds a little bit of gain, tightens up the bottom end, and it pushes the mids. On the back panel, there's a power amp bass focus option. When it's out, it gives the amp more of a looser vintage response, and when it's engaged, it has a tighter, more modern response. So that's really cool, and unlike something like a PV6505 or other amps in a similarly brutal tone category, the Victory Kraken is an immensely versatile amp. It's got the proper clean channel, and it proudly displays its heritage with a great British crunch. I also like how the standby switch doubles as the wattage selector. If 100 watts is too much, you can drop it down to 30 watts, which, let's be clear, is still loud, but the dynamics are noticeably different with less headroom to play with. Super Kraken is also a lot physically smaller than most high wattage heads. It's less than 19 inches wide, 9¼ inches high, and 9¼ inches deep. It weighs less than 30 pounds compared to the 30-inch wide and 55-pound EVH 5153. It's much more reasonable for gigs. It's almost kind of cute. I'm also super disappointed in myself that I've lived in this country long enough that I automatically default to inches rather than centimeters and pounds rather than kilograms. What the fuck? But anyways, final thoughts on the Super Kraken. You know, I've wanted one of these amps for a long time. Everyone seems to love Victory. What's the hype all about? Finally got one. I wasn't really sure where it would fit in relative to the other amps that I use, but amazingly, even with my literal wall of tube amps, this fits a certain niche that none of the others do. But also, if it were my only tube amp, it would do everything that I need it to do. What I mean is it's a keeper. I am going to find a way to fit the Super Kraken on the wall. It's so good. The one thing I don't like is I'm never a fan when amps have shared EQ for all the channels. I understand to get this really compact form factor, it makes sense. And especially when it uses the big chicken head knob so everything is nicely spaced out. You can see and adjust your settings quickly and easily, even in a dimly lit environment. Personally though, I like really bright cleans and kind of scooped high gain tones. And especially when you've got two different gain modes that shift the mids, like in the case of the Super Kraken, single EQ feels a bit limiting on paper. It's not helped by the fact that the EQ settings are not MIDI controllable either, so you can't save and recall them as part of your presets like you can do with the Grandmeister 40 Deluxe, for example. Honestly though, don't even worry about it. It took about 5 minutes of random chugging to find the settings I liked. I mean, you're guitar players, you know the new amp ritual. And for what I want it to do, it kind of sounds really good across all the modes and channels at my preferred settings. But to finish this video up, if it wasn't clear, this is one of my favorite amps right now. I've been using it on a ton of stuff. The tightness helps it blend really well with the other amps in my collection. And the more I use it, the more I just absolutely fucking love it. Like, a lot of modern high gain amps are voiced to already sound super tight and super boosted right out of the box, and those are cool, I like those, but you lose a bit of that vintage tube character. And in the case of the Victory Super Kraken, I cannot get over how they've managed to combine both raw and aggressive old school sounds with a tight modern response in a seemingly perfect balance. It is just a fantastic amp. But that is it for this Victory Amps appreciation video. Here's where I'll throw it to you. Super Kraken, or just Victory amps in general, let me know what you're thinking down below. And as I mentioned, this is my first big boy Victory amp that I've tried. As a metal player, it's the one that definitely suits me the most, but If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more Victory content in this style, let me know what else you'd like to see on the channel, and as a new Victory fanboy, I will happily try and make that happen. Massive thanks to my amazing patrons who make each and every video possible. Their names are up on the screen right now. Consider joining them if you want to support what I do. You can also join as a channel member or pick up some comfy merch. Really appreciate the direct support and helping me make better content. And of course, I appreciate you all for just watching. Social media, Discord, and affiliate links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I will see you for the next video.